Have you ever wondered why, even though you work hard, your bank account never seems to grow? Do you feel frustrated seeing your money disappear and not even knowing where it went? If this sounds familiar, stay with me, because today I'm going to show you how to stop spending money on things you don't even notice but are keeping you poor. Imagine your bank account doubling in value simply by correcting these mistakes. Robert Kiyosaki, the author of Rich Dad Poor Dad, revealed 12 expenses that sabotage your finances, and I'm going to share them all with you. The pain of not having control over your own money can be overwhelming, but the solution lies in changing small habits. Ready to learn how to protect your money and finally make it grow? Then let's transform your relationship with finances together. And now, let's dive into the first expense. But first, just check if you're subscribed to the channel, because the next videos will be part of a series of content that will help you transform your financial life. Imagine that you just received your allowance and you're super happy, already thinking about how to spend it. Now, think, what if you could use that money to build something even bigger? Robert Kiyosaki, a renowned finance expert, teaches that the secret is to use our money wisely, like a superhero who knows when and where to use their powers. It's not about never having fun, but about having control, like if you had a bucket full of water. Every time you spend without thinking, it's like poking a hole in that bucket, and the water starts to leak. If you don't take care, the bucket will be empty before you know it. The secret is to use that water to irrigate a garden full of flowers and fruit-bearing trees, meaning making your money grow over time. One way to do that is by investing in things that will bring more money in the future, instead of spending it all now. Kiyosaki says that our financial mindset usually comes from what we learned when we were younger. If you think money is only for spending quickly, you'll need to break that habit. The good news is that anyone can learn to think differently. Imagine your salary or allowance is a seed. You can spend it all on candy or toys, or plant that seed to harvest fruit in the future. How do we do this? By setting aside part of it to learn something new or for a project that can grow. It's like planting a tree that will one day bear plenty of fruit. While your friends are still trying to save money, you'll have a tree full of fruit to enjoy. A simple example: if you have a job or earn money somehow, don't spend it all without thinking. Instead, make choices that help you grow. The most important thing to remember is that spending without thinking is like trying to fill a bucket with holes. Plugging those holes, meaning controlling our spending, is the first step to building a future full of opportunities. Now tell me, do you want your bucket full or empty? You know that feeling of saving money by taking advantage of a sale? It seems incredible, but Robert Kiyosaki warns us that this is actually a dangerous illusion. Let me tell you a story to illustrate. Imagine you're walking through a market and see a huge sign saying 50% off. You rush to buy something you probably don't even need, thinking you got a great deal. But the reality is that the money just changed hands, leaving your account and going into someone else's, without bringing any real value. It's like being lured into a shiny trap, where you think you're saving, but in fact, you're spending on something you didn't even plan for. Kiyosaki teaches that the most important thing is not how much you can save on sales, but how much you can keep your money working for you. If most of the time your money is leaving your account and rarely coming in, then you're heading in the wrong direction. Imagine this as a board game. In the game, you need to move forward to win, right? But every time you land on a sale space, it's like taking a step back. The goal isn't just to save, but to make your money grow, putting it to work like a small army building wealth for you. When you spend impulsively, the money that could be building your future disappears. The idea is simple. Whenever you see a sale, ask yourself if you really need that item or if you're just falling into temptation. Kiyosaki points out that the wealthy focus on increasing income, while the poor and middle class worry too much about false savings. You may think you're winning by paying less, but in practice, you're just feeding the consumer machine. Remember, if money is leaving more than it's coming in, you're digging a financial hole. So the next time a sale tries to lure you, resist and think, my money should help me grow, not keep me stuck in the same place. Many people believe that buying on credit is a quick solution to have something now and pay for it later. But Robert Kiyosaki teaches us that this is a dangerous financial trap. Using credit seems advantageous at first, but compound interest can turn this habit into one of the greatest enemies of your financial health. When you buy something in installments, you're committing to pay much more than the original price, and the interest enriches those who receive it, while you, the one paying it, get poorer and poorer. Think about it. Over time, the amount you spend paying interest could have been invested to generate more money, but instead, it slips through your fingers. Kiyosaki explains that compound interest is powerful, and it's important to understand whether you're on the receiving side or the paying side. Those who receive interest can multiply their wealth, while those who pay it end up paying up to 3 times the initial value of a product. This means that when you use credit without planning, you're building someone else's wealth while reducing your own. To achieve financial freedom, you need to be cautious with these commitments, avoiding debts that don't add value to your life. The situation becomes even more critical when we think about large debts, like long-term financing. Buying without having the money available and relying on credit can trap you in a cycle of economic slavery, where your salary isn't enough to cover expenses, forcing you to take out more loans and financing. This financial snowball grows quickly and is hard to stop. If your goal is to accumulate wealth, you need to make sure you're on the right side of the interest equation, receiving, not paying. Therefore, before using credit, do a detailed analysis and ask yourself, Am I investing in something that will bring me returns or just buying something that will depreciate and leave me in debt? Conscious money management is what differentiates those who build wealth from those who drown in debt. Control your finances and avoid the traps of interest that impoverish you without you realizing it. If you want to prosper, avoid credit purchases that aren't absolutely necessary and always choose options that add value, not debt. One of the most common mistakes that keep us away from prosperity is spending money on electronic gadgets we don't need. Robert Kiyosaki points out that many of us are drawn to modern gadgets that promise to make life easier, but in reality, they end up collecting dust in a corner of the house. They are advertised as must-have items, but the truth is, if they're not used productively, these devices are just a waste of money. And more, when you buy without planning, you're sacrificing your financial future for something that may never be truly useful. Think about it. How many times have you bought a device just because it was trendy or looked interesting, but it didn't have the impact you imagined on your daily life? These purchases can be a major obstacle to building wealth, especially if they are financed or bought on credit. The wealthy know that the real difference lies in how you use money, and they invest in things that generate returns, not in products that depreciate and lose value quickly. The idea isn't to never treat yourself, but to think before spending. Will this really add value to my life, or is it just a momentary whim? Kiyosaki emphasizes that we need to have control over these desires. It's easy to be tempted by the latest gadgets, but it's important to ask, am I going to use this for something productive, or is it just a luxury accessory I want to show off to my friends? The difference between a smart financial choice and an unnecessary expense can determine whether you build a solid financial foundation or get trapped in a financial pitfall. Every penny you save can be invested and multiply your money, instead of being spent on something that depreciates. The tip here is simple. Before buying any electronic device, analyze if it's a real necessity or if there are cheaper alternatives that do the same job. Impulse buying is dangerous, especially with technology, which advances rapidly. Often, a gadget that seemed incredible today will be outdated tomorrow, and you will have wasted your money. Use the 30-day rule before making big purchases. If after that time you still think it's really necessary and will be used productively, then it might be worth it. But most of the time, you'll realize you can live perfectly well without that gadget. Have you ever bought an electronic device that ended up forgotten in a corner of your house? Do you tend to spend on unnecessary things or know someone who does? Leave a comment, and I'll help you out. Imagine you're strolling through the mall and see a pair of brand-name sneakers in the store window. They shine with an exorbitant price tag, but everyone seems to want a pair. You think, if I wear these sneakers, people will see me differently. I'll look successful. It's a common thought, but Robert Kiyosaki warns us that spending money just to show off status is one of the biggest enemies of building wealth. Expensive brands usually don't add real value to our lives. They multiply the price without necessarily improving quality. Now, imagine a boy named Pedro. He had saved his allowance for months to buy a pair of designer sneakers that everyone at school was talking about. On the big day, he went to the store, spent all the money he had, and walked out feeling on top of the world. But as days passed, he realized that the sneakers didn't make any difference in what he really wanted to achieve: good friendships and financial security for the future. The sneakers were there, looking nice, but his piggy bank was completely empty. Pedro learned the hard way that the value of things isn't always in the price, but in what they can truly provide. Kiyosaki reminds us that the wealthy understand this difference. They invest in things that multiply their money, while the poor and middle class often go into debt to keep up appearances. It's a trap to think that branded items bring lasting happiness or status. The reality is that while we're busy spending to impress others, we're missing opportunities to grow financially. Designer sneakers don't pay your bills or increase your financial freedom. They only give temporary satisfaction and, sometimes, a false sense of success. The lesson is clear. Before spending on a famous brand, ask yourself if it's really necessary or just a way to show off something that, deep down, doesn't matter. Imagine how much you could save if you bought quality products at a fair price, investing what's left in something that could yield returns in the future. The next time you're faced with an expensive branded item, think of Pedro and his pricey sneakers. Instead of emptying your finances to impress, fill them with smart decisions. After all, what matters isn't what others think of you, but what you build for your future. Have you ever thought about how much money is literally burned when someone has a smoking habit? Robert Kiyosaki shows us that this habit isn't just a health risk, but also a major financial threat. Picture this. You know Mrs. Maria, a woman who has been smoking for over 20 years. Every day, she buys a pack of cigarettes without thinking about how much it costs her. If you do the math, you'll see that the money she spent on cigarettes over that time could have been invested in something that generated wealth, like an investment fund or even a small business. Mrs. Maria never stopped to calculate, but let's help her out. Suppose a pack of cigarettes costs $10. If she smokes a pack a day, that's $300 a month, totaling $3,600 a year. Now, multiply that by 20 years, $72,000 wasted. And that's not even counting the negative impact on her health, which can lead to even more expenses on medical treatments and expensive medications in the future. It's an expense that, drop by drop, sinks any plan to build a secure financial future. The issue isn't just how much smoking costs today, but how it damages your finances over time. Kiyosaki teaches us that to build wealth, we need to have full control over where our money goes. When you spend on something that not only drains your money but can also shorten your productive life, you're creating a recipe for financial failure. And of course, quitting a habit is difficult, but the motivation can come when you see the impact it has on your future. Imagine if, instead of spending on cigarettes, you invested that money in something that earned compound interest. Over time, that money you would have burned could turn into a substantial amount to help achieve a bigger dream. Think of Tiago, a young man who decided to quit smoking and invest the money he used to spend. He opened an investment account and started putting in $300 a month. 10 years later, Tiago managed to save a considerable amount, which he used as a down payment to buy his own house. He realized that the sacrifice was worth it and that the money worked for him instead of evaporating into smoke. Just like Tiago, anyone can make that decision, turning an expensive habit into a prosperous future. Remember, the secret lies in small choices that make a huge difference in the long run. Going to the mall is a common pastime for many people, but Robert Kiyosaki highlights that this habit can be a major enemy of your finances, especially when done without planning. Visiting the mall on payday may seem like a way to celebrate, but it usually results in impulsive purchases and unnecessary spending. When you walk through a mall, you are exposed to an endless array of products and attractive promotions designed to make you spend more. And the worst part, often these purchases are made on credit, which ends up compromising your budget even further. The problem with impulsive shopping is that it's unplanned and almost always leads to regret. You buy something on impulse, and sometime later, you realize you didn't need it or that you could have used the money more productively. Kiyosaki explains that the time we spend at the mall could be used for something that adds value to our lives, like reading, learning, or developing new skills. These activities not only enrich your knowledge but can also open doors to opportunities that help increase your income. The temptation to spend is greater when you have extra money, but it's important to have a conscious financial mindset. Before going shopping, make a list of what you really need and stick to it strictly. This helps avoid the trap of buying items that weren't in your plans. Moreover, developing financial discipline is an essential step in building wealth. Resisting the temptations of impulsive consumption may seem difficult at first, but over time, you'll see how it makes a difference in your budget. The secret is to plan your purchases and always think long-term. Instead of spending on things that quickly lose value, like trendy clothes or accessories, think about the impact that money would have if invested. Small amounts, when saved and invested wisely, can grow and help you achieve your dreams in the future. Kiyosaki's advice is clear. If you want to achieve financial stability, start transforming the way you think about spending. Avoid consumption traps and direct your money towards what will truly make a difference in your life in the long run. Robert Kiyosaki emphasizes an important difference between the financial habits of wealthy people and those of the middle or lower class. The choice between having a huge television or a meaningful library. For most low-income people, having a big TV is almost a status symbol. They spend a lot of money to get the latest TV model, not realizing that it doesn't contribute to their financial growth. In contrast, the wealthy invest in knowledge. In their homes, it's more common to find a library full of books that help expand their minds and increase their skills. The television can be one of the biggest thieves of time and productivity. Spending hours watching entertainment shows, like reality TV, soap operas, or sports competitions, doesn't generate financial returns. It's a time investment that offers no long-term results. Kiyosaki reminds us that what sets the rich apart from the poor is the focus on what truly matters. While the wealthy prioritize learning and growing, many who are stuck in financial struggles spend their time consuming content that adds nothing to their life or finances. The point here isn't to say that you should never watch television, but rather to have balance and reflect on where you're putting your time and money. If you want to get rich, you need to start thinking about how you can use your resources more productively. Imagine if, instead of spending a fortune on a state-of-the-art TV, you invested in books, courses, or experiences that could teach you something new. This knowledge can open doors to opportunities that help improve your financial situation. Kiyosaki's message is clear. Wealth doesn't come by chance. It's the result of conscious decisions, like prioritizing learning over entertainment. Turn the time you spend in front of the TV into a moment of personal growth. Read books that inspire you, take courses that develop your skills, and, above all, invest in your future. By adopting this mindset, you'll be taking a big step toward building solid wealth. After all, while television gives you temporary distraction, a library gives you the knowledge that can change your life forever. Many of us are drawn to the allure of the latest generation smartphones. They promise incredible photos, fast performance, and a host of impressive features. But Robert Kiyosaki warns that buying an expensive smartphone on credit is a financial mistake that can keep you trapped in poverty. Although it's tempting to have the latest model, this decision can end up costing much more than you imagine. The reality is that for those earning minimum wage or with a tight budget, buying such a phone and paying for it in installments is like carrying an unnecessary financial burden. Think carefully. Do you really need a device that costs $5,000 or more? Often, these smartphones end up being used only for basic things, like accessing social media, sending WhatsApp messages, or taking selfies. What Kiyosaki highlights is that when you use credit to pay for an item that depreciates rapidly, you're putting your finances at risk. A smartphone starts losing value as soon as it leaves the store, and what you paid with interest can end up being 2 or even 3 times the original price. This creates a cycle of debt that can be hard to break. The problem is that we live in a society where appearance matters a lot, and many people end up going into debt to maintain an image that doesn't reflect the reality of their finances. But the question is simple. Is it worth going into debt for something that doesn't generate financial returns? Kiyosaki teaches us to focus on investments that grow over time, not on things that lose value. If your goal is to get rich, you need to start thinking about how every purchase decision can impact your financial future. A high-end smartphone won't help you make more money, but investing in knowledge or a business might. The advice here is clear. If you can't pay for a smartphone upfront without compromising your budget, choose a more affordable model or, better yet, save the money for an investment that brings returns. Having a functional phone is important, but it doesn't have to be the most expensive one. By adopting an investment mindset instead of a consumption one, you'll be building a more solid financial foundation. And remember, the true value lies in what money can do for you in the long term, not in the fleeting satisfaction of having the latest device. Imagine this. Joao is a young man who loves going out at night with friends. Every Friday, he gets dressed up, spends a fortune at bars and clubs, and never thinks twice before ordering that expensive drink or a fancy dish. The fun is guaranteed, but at the end of the month, when he looks at his bank account, the shock is inevitable. He realizes that despite having a great time, there's nothing left to save or invest. Robert Kiyosaki points out that this type of habit, if left unchecked, can be one of the biggest obstacles for those who want to build wealth. Going out and socializing is important to relax and have fun, but you need to be careful with excesses. Many of us don't realize how much money is wasted at parties and night events, where alcohol is sold at absurd prices, and the excitement makes us spend more than we intended. It's like each drink is a hole in your financial boat, slowly sinking as you have fun without thinking about the consequences. The problem isn't the fun, but the lack of planning and self-control. Kiyosaki reminds us that the wealthy know how to balance pleasure and financial responsibility. They understand that leisure moments are important, but they do so without compromising their financial dreams. The key is to plan. For example, if Joao had set a spending limit before going out, he could have enjoyed the night without ruining his budget. Another strategy is to choose more affordable or even free activities to have fun with friends, like watching a movie at home or having a picnic in the park. Think about Maria, a young woman who always wanted to join her friends at the city's most expensive clubs. One day, she decided to change her approach. Instead of spending hundreds of dollars in one night, she started saving part of that money. Over time, she managed to save enough to invest in a course that helped her advance in her career. She still goes out and has fun, but now she does it consciously, knowing that every dollar saved contributes to her long-term goals. Kiyosaki's lesson is that building wealth requires discipline and smart choices. Uncontrolled spending on nights out can be a major obstacle for those who want to progress financially. Have fun, but do it responsibly. Ask yourself, is this expense necessary? Will it stop me from reaching my goals? Small decisions can make a big difference. Learn to enjoy yourself without getting into debt, and you'll see how your financial future will start to shine. Robert Kiyosaki warns us about a common financial mistake: buying new cars, especially if you can't afford them. Let's be honest, who doesn't love the smell of a new car or the thrill of driving off the dealership lot with a shiny vehicle? But the reality is that the moment you leave the store, the car begins to lose value rapidly. In fact, a new car can depreciate around 25% as soon as you drive it off the lot and up to 45% in the first 3 years. It's an investment that rarely brings returns unless the car is used to generate income, like in transportation services. Imagine Marcos's case. He always dreamed of owning a luxury car and finally decided to finance an expensive model to impress his friends. At first, he felt on top of the world, but soon the problems started. The installments were high, maintenance costs were heavy, and the car's value dropped each month. Marcos realized that while he was working hard to pay off the loan, his dream of building a financial future was slipping further away. He was spending a large part of his salary on something that only lost value. Kiyosaki explains that the wealthy think differently. They know that instead of spending money on liabilities, like new cars that depreciate, it's smarter to invest in assets that increase in value. This doesn't mean you can't have a car, but it might be wiser to buy a used model in good condition, avoiding the burden of depreciation. The money you save can be invested in something that brings returns, like an investment fund or a business opportunity. For those who feel they need a new car to show status, Kiyosaki suggests rethinking priorities. Having a more modest car but healthier finances is a smart trade-off. He reminds us that appearance isn't wealth. Many people are stuck in debt because they want to impress others, but the truly wealthy prefer to live with less show and more financial freedom. Every dollar you save instead of spending on a new car can be used to generate more money. Think about how different it would be if, instead of financing an expensive car, you invested in something that could bring you more resources in the future. Build wealth that allows you to achieve your dreams without debt. Remember, true financial freedom comes from making smart choices, and a new car is rarely one of them. Prioritize what truly matters, your long-term financial stability. Well, we're almost at the last expense, but before we get there, I noticed you haven't given this video a like yet. It's really important so that YouTube keeps promoting our content and we can continue helping you. So go ahead and leave your like, it's free. Robert Kiyosaki emphasizes that eating out regularly is a habit that can silently drain your finances. Many of us, especially the middle class, love going to restaurants, whether to enjoy a delicious meal or simply to escape the routine of cooking. However, this habit can be extremely expensive, and if done without planning, it becomes a major obstacle to building wealth. Every time you choose to eat at a restaurant, you're not only paying for the food, but also for the service, taxes, and the establishment's profit margin. It's important to understand that this money could be saved or invested to generate a future return. Even though it seems harmless to spend on a lunch or dinner here and there, these small expenses add up quickly. By the end of the month, the amount you spent could have been used to improve your financial health. Kiyosaki explains that the wealthy understand the importance of prioritizing financial growth instead of consuming out of convenience. They know that what matters is what you do with every dollar you earn. For those who want to improve their financial situation, the solution can be simple. Cook more at home. Besides being a more economical option, preparing your own meals can be a way to control what you eat, improving your health in the process. This doesn't mean you should never treat yourself to a night out, but it's important to have balance. If dining out is something you enjoy, set a specific budget for it and try not to exceed it. With a little planning, you can have enjoyable moments without compromising your finances. The idea is to make conscious choices. By saving on dining out, you can invest the money saved in assets that generate financial returns, like investment funds or education to further improve your skills. It's not about deprivation, but about financial intelligence. When you cut down on these small expenses, you're creating a path to achieve your long-term financial goals. Kiyosaki teaches us that building wealth is about focusing on what truly matters, and often, that involves cutting unnecessary expenses. So, take a look at your spending habits and see if there are opportunities to save. Building a solid financial future starts with smart decisions in the present, and reducing restaurant visits can be a significant step in the right direction. Make every financial choice an investment in yourself. We've reached the end of the video. Now you know the 12 expenses that might be keeping you poor without you even realizing it. But just knowing this won't help if you don't start taking action, alright? The secret lies in the small choices you make every day. That's what will help you build the life you deserve. So, pay attention to what you're spending on and don't let these habits steal your future. Start planning, controlling, and using your money wisely. You can do this, and I'm here to help you. Thank you for watching this video all the way through. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel to keep receiving more content. See you in the next video.